Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and his Liberal Party failed to win the majority in Parliament, but they can still claim an astonishing comeback in the national election, one strongly influenced by President Trump's trade war and repeated threats to make Canada the 51st state. Resetting U.S.-Canadian relations, just one of the international alliances impacted in the first 100 days. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey. Senator, you wrote in an op-ed for MSNBC.com that it's called America First is becoming America alone at the worst possible time. And in it, you say, quote, when I look at his decisions, I don't see chaos. I see the implementation of a coherent and dangerous neo-isolationism. So you think this is all deliberate? Can you explain why you think that and what it means?
Yes, absolutely. I think this is very deliberate. You know, I was in Munich at the security conference earlier this year when Vice President Vance gave one of what I thought was one of the most shameful speeches that a U.S. leader has given in front of our allies. We see the president talking about how he wants to walk away from NATO, questioning that alliance. This is very much a belief that we should be going alone. The tariffs are a perfect example of that, literally going against our allies and our partners. I even asked Secretary Lutnick, are you going to differentiate between our allies and our partners and our adversaries and our competitors? And he said basically no. And so I wanted to show the American people that it isn't chaos. This isn't about, just, the haphazard foreign policy. This is a very deliberate attempt to pull us back. And when I talk to leaders around the world, there's one thing that they all agree upon. They say that America is in decline, and from their perspective, America is withdrawing and giving up our mantle as a superpower in the world.
I was also at that conference in Munich, and that speech really startled a lot of European leaders. And one of the things I kept asking them is if they thought America was a reliable ally, if they thought Article 5 were invoked, the Mutual Defense Treaty under NATO, if America would really come to their defense. I pose those questions to you. Is America a reliable ally, and is it a reliable NATO member?
I get that question a lot from leaders as well. And right now, unfortunately, it is very clear that we are not a reliable partner right now. I often say, what's the value of the American handshake right now? When we hear straight from Donald Trump saying he's not sure, he's not committed to coming to the defense of our NATO partners if an attack were to happen. He literally questioned that. I don't see how any of those partners can see what's happening and think that the United States is reliable, that we can be counted upon. And when we see us cutting USAID and foreign assistance all around the world, you know who is stepping in to fill that void and that vacuum? China is. China is trying to demonstrate that they are the new superpower, that they are going to be the force for stability and continuity in the world. And that's going to make us less safe. That's going to make us less prosperous. That's going to hurt America's standing in so many different ways. So I just really want to hit that home again to the American people so they understand, because Trump is trying to couch this as trying to save money, trying to have effective, efficient government. Right now, we should be surging resources when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to trying to take on this very dangerous world that we're in right now. We can do that responsibly, but if we cede that ground, it will be filled by our adversaries and our competitors.
And at the same time, right now, there's a cabinet meeting at the White House, and Elon Musk is speaking. We're not going to go to that right now, but we are monitoring that for everyone. You can see right here. I also want to ask you, for those of us who followed and covered the first Trump administration, there was a lot of messaging about exactly what you were just talking about, soft power, countering China, countering this Belt and Road Initiative where they're going into countries, building roads, building ports, building stadiums in Africa and South America. If the administration does what it's proposing, cutting staff and diplomatic facilities around the world, doesn't that undermine their stated goal of countering Chinese influence abroad?
Absolutely. And like I said, we should be looking at foreign assistance. It's not charity. It is a means by which we can try to engage and influence other countries. The Development Finance Corporation, which is meant to be a counterweight to the Belt and Road Initiative by China. There's so many tools that the Trump administration is cutting. And what is he doing? He's put forward these tariffs, which is not only raising prices on the American people, but it's forcing us to go it alone. I've told the Trump administration, if you're going to do tariffs on China, China, I'm not opposed to that, but if you're going to do it, you got to do it alongside our allies and our partners to be able to build up a coalition to stand stronger. Instead, we burn those bridges, and we are standing alone, and we're weaker for it. So I'm very worried about this pathway that he is setting us on, a trajectory of decline that I don't want to see come to fruition. I'm a father of a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and I'm really worried about what kind of America they're going to grow up in, but also I'm worried about whether America will be the strongest country in the world as they grow older.
All right, Senator Andy Kim, thank you so much for joining us.